Alright, so exams are done and I can finally return to recording stuff. It's even after the exams, I still had some other work to do, but now that it's mostly done, I can try and get these videos out as fast as possible. I'm going to be doing Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, catch them up. Then I'm going to do the Tokyo Revengers video. And then I'm just going to go ahead as I've always had before the exam started. So, yeah, let's get into it. Right, so this is a chapter review of chapter 331 of My Hero Academia titled America. This chapter starts off with the massive explosion from Shigaraki's power-up in the last chapter. Shigaraki's hair has grown out and he stands on one of the fighter jets. Shiki then starts doing some big brain analytical mathematics stuff and tells us everything that he knows about Star's quirk. So it's number 1, Star's quirk was kept confidential by the government. Seems obvious, does the United States, like the United States government stereotype that the government doesn't tell you shit. Number 2, after torching a target and calling out its name, she can impose a new rule upon it almost freely. This we already know. 3, there's a limit to how much she can strengthen or power up something. 4, there is no limit to how much she can weaken things. 5, she has more freedom when setting rules on non-biological things and less freedom on setting rules on biological things. And 6, Star can use her quirk on her target by touching it and calling out its name, but the target must also identify by that name. The quirk didn't work on Shigaraki because Shigaraki doesn't understand his own identity and is majorly conflicted on who he is at this point. So meanwhile, Star's like, I wonder if he has a breathing apparatus on him. And that's it. That's all the questions she asks herself. I think it's referring to the atmospheric wipeout move she did a while back. And she's wondering how Shigaraki was able to breathe. So I think that was the entire point of that panel. It was a stupid panel. So anywho, she tells one of the pilots to convey a message to a new character. Remember this name, Commander Akbar. And this message did not go well because the pilot freaks out and is going like about, yo, this is going too far. We need to some other bitchy stuff. But Star rebuttals, stating that they have to use the special override order and that this is why it exists. You'll find out what that is later. Star says, Shigaraki is no longer an enemy of just Japan, but is now a worldwide threat. So he must die now. She asked the pilot if she could use him as a foothold. We then get a flashback to when the pilot first met Star. And in the flashback, she refers to her comrades as her brothers. And so it begins. The atmosphere will solidify and becomes 1,000 times my size. Fist bump to the earth. And with this new rule, Star creates a massive atmosphere kaiju thingy. And Shigaraki can't even see this thing. It's like in the shape of Star and moves with Star, but Shigaraki can't see it. And I think only Star knows it's there. And well, Shigaraki may not be able to see it, but he felt it because left hook, Shigi's just blown away. And then Shigiri is then clapped and crushed. The clouds separate because of how massive the impact is. Then she orders her brothers to fire all their lasers on to herself. She then imposes the rule on the lasers to harden and concentrate the lasers into one beam. She calls it ultra high power unification laser Iceranos. I think that's what it says. My handwriting sucks and I'm reading off a script. Star creates a laser javelin with this rule and just jams it on top of Shigaraki, which would pin him right down to the ground. And she then goes on to say, if he's defeated by this, then there is no way that Endeavor couldn't have taken him down during the war. And I'm just like, when I was reading that, I was like, what? Endeavor can't do any of this. Endeavor didn't create a massive atmosphere kaiju. Endeavor didn't clap his hands and have the entire clouds just separate. I think Star's giving uh, Shigaraki and Endeavor a little too much credit here. But anyway, she then gets a call from Commander Akbar. Remember him? Akbar warns her about how her reckless actions will not just get her hero license revoked, which implies that Star will also face harsher punishments because of what's going on here. And Star responds, do whatever you want. So, are the preparations done? You only have one shot. Japan has already been contacted, and it should be arriving soon. Perfect. You don't follow orders. You don't follow the rules. You're selfish and hasty. Yet, that is the reason why our country shines. Surpass All Might, and capture that villain. We then have a new weapon revealed to us. New model hypersonic intercontinental cruise missile Tiamat. And on that bombshell, that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 332, New Model Hypersonic Intercontinental Ballistics. The chapter starts off with a flashback to Star's past. She was in some kind of government military dorm, and the other soldiers, who I assume are also the same jet fighters that are accompanying Star on the current mission. They are laughing and drinking and having a joke and a jab at Star's expense because she's like bandaged and stuff, so it looks like she was doing a training session and it just didn't go well, I guess. Then we get an inner monologue where Star talks about the limits of her quirk and that no matter what rules she tried, she couldn't strengthen herself beyond her quirk's limits. And she began to wonder if this was because she was a woman that she couldn't do this. And she tells her teammates this, and they just call it a load of crap. They reassure her that it ain't her quirk that's lacking, and that if her quirk or her need any help, her teammates would always be there to help her out. This puts a little smile on Star's face. You know, you can tell she's happy that she knows her teammates have her back. But that flashback ends, and we move on to the main story. The Tiamat missiles are on their way to Star's location. Star orders her team to shoot and focus more lasers to bury Shigaraki. This is to buy her time in order to release the previous rule on the laser javelin in order to use it on the missiles. Shiggy begins to deduce that something is coming and it's not going to be good for him. But by the time he realizes it, it's way too late. As the missiles approach, Star grabs them, and the force of impact from those missiles like tug the massive kaiju thing's arm, like almost launching them forward. And before her arms are like blown off by this force, Star touches the missiles and imposes a new rule. New order, Tiamat will rotate around. Suddenly, Shigaraki jumps out of the ocean through the lasers, but it's too late as Star has already sent the missiles round. New model, hypersonic, intercontinental ballistic punch. Yeah, I think we all know what happens after this. It's a massive explosion. It could even be seen by Endeavor, who was flying above the shores of Japan. Like, I think it was 70 kilometers away. Yeah, 70 kilometers away from the battle zone. The explosion blows Star away and leaves a massive crater on the ocean floor. And at the bottom of the crater, she notices a little hole, which would not really be there normally. I mean, the entire ocean was like blown apart, and then there's just this one hole, just inside this massive crater. There is this little hole, and this hole is bad news because Shigaraki is hiding in there. And Star right now is defenseless. She jumps out of the hole and lands on one of the US jet fighters and is on her way to try and steal Star's quirk. While Shigaraki is still on the jet fighters, the pilots try and beg Star to crush Shigaraki with them. But Star hesitates. She remembers the good times with her teammates and how they always had her back, and she smiles. But Shigaraki's hand has reached Star's face. That's the end of the chapter. Chapter 333 of My Hero Academia, titled Ghost. The chapter starts off with an inner monologue from Shigaraki, or maybe it's All for One, who knows at this point, saying that he hated how New Order and All for One were working together to stop the spread of evil. He goes on to say that All for One's friends ran wild overseas to slow down international help from reaching Japan, and this is because they needed to complete Shigaraki's body and also find a way to steal One for All and New Order. Since Shigi's body was incomplete, he had to take a gamble on how he would approach the way he'd steal New Order. We then continue to the conclusion of Star and Shigaraki's fight. Star has already started to decay. Star tries to stop the decay with New Order, but it's too late. Shigi had already stolen New Order. We then get a short flashback from Shigaraki about when he was younger. There was a comic he used to read, and then he stopped reading it and just pretended he didn't know it continued. That ends like super fast, and then we immediately jump back into the main story where Shigaraki tries to use New Order but fails. We learn that just before Star lost her quirk, she had set a final rule. New Order will revolt against other quirks. This causes Shigaraki's body to be torn apart from the inside out. As much as Star would have loved to defend her own body as well, this was all she could do. Exchange her life to eliminate a worldwide threat. She gives a thanks to her brothers and her comrades who helped her get this far. Shigi is like panicking, and then comes up with the logic that since quirks are either taken or given but never destroyed, it can just give this pain away by giving away New Order to someone else. His target is the pilots. Yeah, but that's not gonna work too well because the fighter pilots start to fire lasers at Shiggy, hoping to capitalize on the opportunity given to them. As they're doing that, we then see Star's crumbling body. In her last moments, she remembers All Might. Because you saved me, I was able to experience a wonderful dream. She gives a final salute with a sad, somber, and almost happy, like all these different emotions, like written on her face. The little smile, that look in her eyes, and this, she considers this her way of paying back All Might for all he had done. Her overflowing emotion pierces through evil. End of chapter. Chapter 334 of My Hero Academia. The chapter starts off with the jet pilots firing away at Shigaraki, trying to bring him down. Shigaraki had obtained the wings of the Nomu that was destroyed, and after stealing the wings, she tries to flee away. Shigaraki expands the distance, hoping to find someone, anyone, to take New Order. Sudden burst in speed causes the pilots to momentarily lose control, with Shigaraki now out of reach. They can't help but think about Star and her words to them when she said that if they were to fall, she would return their bodies to their families. One of the soldiers gives his final words to Star, telling her that she had long ago surpassed All Might and become the greatest hero. The chapter moves on to the shoreside town where we meet two escaped prisoners, one of which is called Kashi Kashiko. I don't know if you need to remember that name or not, but it's there. So him and his girlfriend are hiding out in an abandoned town when Shigaraki suddenly bursts through the door and tries to pass New Order on to Kashiko. But as he tries this, Star's image appears in his mind, telling him that since there are so many quirks residing in Shiggy, she can't fight them all by themselves, and New Order has almost been destroyed from fighting them. She gives Shigaraki a final warning. As long as there are people willing to help each other, the will of a hero will be passed on, and they will surely put an end to you. We then see Izuku Midoriya's face emerge from New Order's shattered remains. Soon after, a searching party was sent after Shigaraki. They found traces of a conflict inside that Bayside home that we talked about earlier, but by then Shigaraki was gone. After word of Stars and Stripes' death reached the other nations, they ceased all efforts to help Japan and decided that it would be better off to protect their own countries. We then move over to Star's fighter pilot friends talking to All Might. One of them informs All Might that the jets they flew have a record of the battle as well as other valuable information. The next day, All Might tells the UA class that Shiggy's evolution has been delayed by one more week. A final blessing, courtesy of Stars and Stripes. Within this final week, they must defeat All For One and Shigaraki. End of chapter. Chapter 335, Fledgling. Chapter starts off the UA class receiving some of the new information from the Americans. All Might starts off with telling them what we already know, that New Order is poisonous to Shigaraki. It also tells them that Shigaraki has lost a considerable amount of his quirk stockpile from the battle. Right now, the heroes are prioritizing the safety and rescue of the general public. Shigaraki and All For One's real body, Dabi, Toga, and the remaining 6 new high-end Nomus, as well as the remnants of the Paranormal Liberation Front, are all going to be a massive threat in this fight. They also need to capture the escaped prisoners under All For One's command. And that's pretty much on the villain's side. On the hero's side, without Star Sacrifice, they probably wouldn't have a chance. All Might tells the class to grow strong within the battle, since the heroes are very, very short on heroes. Basically, over half of them have gone. So they need to find a way to protect their loved ones and have to get stronger. And Bakugo explodes, stating that they've already been doing that. They've already been getting stronger. Ida chimes in and tells All Might that while All Might was away, the UA class had been keeping up with their training. We also get some funny moments with Bakugo, but nothing really important. And we also learn that Bakugo has a new technique that he wants to try out soon. Skipping over to the villain's hideout, Shigi is writhing in pain. All For One refers to Shigaraki as Other Me and tells Shigi to calm down until the damaged quirk factor heals and he can use his quirks again. Shigi starts to whine about All Might and how everything resembles him, and typical maniac type shit. All For One turns attention to everyone else and tells them that all the preparations are there. They just need to wait it out a bit longer. And Dub is like, nope, I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired. And All For One tells Dabi that they are very similar, but there is one crucial difference. All For One has one solid goal in mind, but has a million different strategies to achieve that goal. We then get a new reveal. A traitor lies waiting within the walls of UA High School. End of chapter. Chapter 336, titled Villain. So the chapter starts off with the UA students training. Bakugo's got a new move called the Cluster, which is basically when he creates little sweat spheres in order to fire off multiple shots at a time. And I'm assuming he's going to try and incorporate this move into all his other moves. Like, all of these moves are going to include some variation of the Cluster. And this would make all his other moves like AP Shot, Howitzer Cannon much stronger. He's also wearing his winter suit in order to sweat faster. And although it does help him get into combat and full power much quicker, it wears him out a lot quicker also. So it's not an endurance build he's got here.
And Todoroki is building a defense against Dabi. He managed to balance the control over his left and right side. And while everyone else is training, Neta and Kaminari are talking about how after the war, the villain side's aces were weakened, and since Gigantomachia is still confined, this would be the perfect time to attack. They just need to find All for One. To Chibaku responds that they're off by 3 points.
Point 1. They probably won't find All for One. All for One is basically a master of hide and seek. Even if they found all the other hideouts they have, they're never gonna be able to find out where All for One is hiding. 2. Shigaraki, in his incomplete form, still bitch slapped the heroes. And since the heroes have lost a lot of manpower, so regardless, it's still 50-50 on whether or not they can win or not. 3. The villains would be the ones deciding when the battle starts. The heroes would be on the back foot, even if Shigaraki has lost some of his quirks to the Americans, which may or may not include the quirk surge, which would give him an advantage, but not a substantial one. Deku suggests that they should at least try and influence their actions, and that he should head out for a recon, but Ida corrects him and stating that they should go out as a team. The chapter then moves on to the invisible girl, Hagakure, spying on Aoyama, the belly button laser boy, and his parents talking about how Aoyama must continue supporting All for One. So to summarize this part of the chapter and this basically long sob story of Aoyama's past, Aoyama is the spy. He was born quirkless and his parents didn't want him to get bullied, so they approached All for One for a new quirk. Now, if they don't follow All for One's orders, Aoyama and his parents might die. Hagakure fetches Midoriya, who overhears the last part about how Aoyama feels trapped and guilty, and after that Midoriya confronts them and Aoyama tells the truth. He is the spy that has been working for All for One. End of chapter. It's good to be back, so there's a lot to talk about now. First of all, R.I.P. Stars and Stripes. So Star died in one of the chapters I reviewed here. She died of decay. And it was a sad death. I was hoping she would get more screen time. Maybe someone would save her. Endeavor, Hawks, Best Jeans, anybody. And that she could like talk to All Might again. Talk to Midoriya, talk to the UA class. Maybe teach them a few things, you know. And Star's quirk was very valuable. You'd think that they would be doing everything in their power to make sure Shigaraki does not get it. I mean, they knew where Shigaraki was. They knew that Shigaraki was fighting on Stripes. Endeavor was just casually flying over to the shore of Japan. He was just flying there for however many hours this fight took place for. He didn't even try to help. Kind of sad, really. They could have saved. Not even saved the girl. They lost a very valuable asset here. And Star put up a fight. She turned into God. She started manipulating physics, space, time, and all that shit. It was crazy. New Order is possibly the most overpowered quirk in My Hero Academia. And I've said this before, like, if I had one choice, if I were given the opportunity to pick one quirk in this entire series, it's probably going to be New Order because of just how awesome it is. And an awesome quirk for an awesome lady, an awesome hero, the greatest hero, probably on par, if not greater than All Might. and she was a hero through and through. She was willing to make tough decisions, like get on her opponents, and like that's hard for a hero. You since heroes aren't really supposed to kill the bad guys, but she was willing to put her hero license on the line, her life on the line, everything she worked for, her reputation, all of that just to save the world. And it's like the thing that says, uh, a hero will sacrifice you for the world, and a villain would sacrifice the world to save you. Of course, that was kind of sketchy at the end there, because she could have just piled on the damage on Shigaraki by using her kaiju to crush him with the pilots before. But I guess she didn't want to. I don't get it. She even stated at the beginning that if they were to fall, she would return their bodies. So she would probably make good on that promise, return their bodies and shit. But nah, she decided to sacrifice herself, which was pretty smart. It was kind of dumb, kind of smart. I don't know how to feel about Star's game plan at the end there, where she created a rule onto New Order that it would revolt against other quirks. Very quick thinking, very smart. That was awesome. Probably after the Tiamat missile was detonated, she was probably able to use that empty space to. Wait, how many rules did she use? I mean, because we know that she uses two at maximum. One to strengthen herself up. One to one was pretty much any other thing. So, I guess Star didn't have her super strength at that moment. I don't think she had her super strength for a lot of this fight. After she punched Shigaraki and started that massive kaiju, she was using up all her rules, so her super strength wasn't active. So yeah, she was only using two. I guess she's just really buff. I thought the buffness was because of um, the new rule, but it was not. It was just her buffness. But yeah, so that was pretty smart. Shigaraki lost a lot of quirks. He couldn't keep New Order. He pretty much had to give it away. Probably killed the person he gave it away to, because you can't just have someone wielding that much power. Like the power to basically almost defeat you. In fact, I think Star might have been able to defeat him if she was really willing to sacrifice her friends. But regardless, it was an overpowered ability. Also, the pilot's last words to her, how she became the greatest hero, that is real touching. Real touching, real heartwarming, warm to my heart and all that stuff. And I also like how it goes back. They were thinking about how she said that she would return their bodies to their families, but I'm pretty sure they would have done the same, but they can't do that because her body has decayed. It's like pretty much just dust at this point, and there's no way to collect it, which is a shame. That she's going to have an empty grave, kind of sad. She deserves so much more. I wish she was still alive. Just quickly becoming one of my favorite characters, but I guess that is what it is. So yeah, the last quirks. Shigaraki has lost a ton of quirks. One of them is the refraction ability. So remember when he bounced back all the lasers that the fighter just fired at him? He can't do that anymore. Search might be gone. We don't know if it is gone, but it might be gone. They're hoping it's gone because that's a dangerous quirk in Shigaraki's possession. And there's probably a lot of others we just don't know about. I guess we'll have to find out later, depending on if we can, track down which quirks is lost and which quirks he still has. And then we move on to what we found out this chapter, that Aoyama is the traitor. And Yo, it was sad. Basically, he was being forced by his parents for something he didn't really even ask for, I'm pretty sure. Since pretty sure they decided for him whether or not he wanted quirk. He probably maybe wanted it, but I don't think he would have done it if he knew that this would have been the result. So Ayama received the quirk he had from All for One. I would have chosen a better quirk, honestly. It's kind of weird that the quirk you chose was the belly button quirk. Clearly, they didn't care that much about him being bullied, but let's start with kind of it better. So I'm assuming that Aoyama probably has that same detonating effect that happened to Lady Nagant when she failed her mission to kill Midoriya. The quirk would basically detonate the person from the inside out, probably killing them if they don't receive help. I'm guessing that's why Aoyama has to follow the orders. Maybe the parents also received quirks, or maybe he just put the detonate quirk onto them as a condition for receiving a quirk from him, to give that to Aoyama. They probably are quirkless. Maybe they do already have their own quirks. Yeah, we don't really know much about them. So, either way, they might have a detonating quirk effect inside them that would detonate if they refuse to follow orders. I guess that's why they were so scared, because they were inside the UA high school, all those massive securities. Even if they stopped following orders, they probably would have been fine. So unless something inside them is going to harm them if they don't follow these orders, then there's no reason for them to listen to All for One anymore. And finally, how they're going to defeat All for One and Shigaraki. Simple answer, I don't know. Complicated answer. I guess One for All is gonna have to do. And whatever UA can pull out, will have to do. Dabi is going to be fighting Todoroki, so we don't have to worry about Todoroki fighting All for One and Shigaraki. Bakugo's probably gonna join the fight between All for One, Shigaraki, and Midoriya. And maybe if Todoroki's done with Dabi, I think it's gonna be Todoroki and Endeavor that's going to fight Dabi, and once that's done, probably Todoroki's gonna go out there and try to fight and help Bakugo and Midoriya against All for One and Shigaraki. We also need a new name for Shigaraki because uh, he's like a new entity. Like we call him All for One number 2 now. What is he? So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So after that, Todoro's gonna help them. Toga's obviously gonna fight Uraraka. Maybe Froppy. That's that. Maybe Froppy's gonna help Uraraka fight Toga. Then the other US students will also have other fights because they have like the 6 high ends. We have. It's probably gonna be there's a ton of stuff to do here. There's still the Paranormal Liberation Front. Oh, Spinner's still there. He's like super weak but super interesting. So he got a lot of development recently, and he still has like some focus considering the Paranormal Liberation Front. So he's probably gonna be important somehow. It's gonna be like a challenge for the rest of the UA students, something for them to do. And Hawk's Best Genius, they're gonna have to find something to do too. Maybe they might. What are they gonna do? Yeah, they're probably gonna still fight the Paranormal Liberation Front. There's still a ton of Liberation Front members out there. They can fit some fights in there. And also want to see the teachers fighting. They best fight. Yo, there's a lot of heroes that are still there. There's a lot less than before, and they're probably still outnumbered by the villains, but there's still quite a bit. So yeah, Eraserhead, all the teachers that are still alive. Rip Midnight. So the pro heroes, Mount Lady. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to. Maybe we might even see like when the heroes look like they're winning or maybe losing. The other retired and defected heroes will decide to step up. Fight for one last shot at life. Because if UA loses, then everyone's dead. So we might see these older heroes, these heroes from long gone, the ones that defected. They might return to the fight to try and help. And it's going to be a group effort. I have a feeling like it's going to be like this super cool group effort type shit where it's good versus evil. It's going to be awesome. I know it is. We've been hyping up so much. We got 1 week. That's a lot of. I think I could pick up like a ton of chapters before then. So I'm excited. This is gonna be really, really cool. I'm going to try and look into what else I can find out. Maybe if I can find anything, I might create a video on what my predictions are for this final fight. So yeah, if you like this video, leave a like, comment, and share. Share with all your friends. And bye bye.